If I were to tell you that a former Major League Baseball player that was demoted back to the minors 2 days later attempted to hijack an airplane and died in the process, would you believe it? This is the story of Len Koenecke. Koenecke was born in Baraboo, Wisconsin on January 18, 1904. He played some baseball in high school and graduated in 1924. He then began working as a firefighter for the Chicago and Northwestern Railway. He joined a co-worker in railway brakeman and former minor leaguer Murray Boyle's Town Baseball Club as they were short on players. Boyle thought due to Koenecke's 5'11", 180-pound frame, he would do well as a substitute. He asked him to play catcher. Koenecke was a natural hitter, but weak defensively. He spent the rest of the summer playing summer baseball for Murray after taking a leave of absence from his railway job. The next summer, he resumed playing baseball and joined multiple teams in Michigan and Wisconsin. In 1927, at 23 years old, his pro career finally started. Koenecke signed as a catcher with the Class B team in the Springfield, Illinois Senators. It was quickly realized he was very inexperienced and had a shaky arm at best, so he was converted into an outfielder. In 1931, New York Giants manager John McGraw heard of a star second baseman with the Louisville Colonels of the American Association. McGraw left his team while they were playing on the road in Cincinnati to scout him in person. McGraw thought the second baseman wasn't going to amount to much, and he didn't think he had the physique to survive National League Baseball. So yeah, that second baseman, he turned out to be Cubs Hall of Famer Billy Herman. However, McGraw said, my trip was not in vain. I saw a great outfielder with the Indianapolis club. His name is Len Koenecke, and I bought him for a lot of money. $75,000 to be exact, which was a lot of money back then. Anyway, on opening day 1932, Koenecke was the starting left fielder for the Giants at the Polo Grounds. And he hit well for his first 2 months, but he was still very shaky on the field, and McGraw unexpectedly resigned as manager due to health issues. Billy Terry took over managing duties and was much more strict on fielding and Koenecke's untrained batting eye. Terry, then just 2 weeks after taking over from McGraw, optioned the 28-year-old Koenecke, batting .179 at the time, to Double-A Jersey City. And, at the end of the season, sold Koenecke's contract to the Buffalo Bisons of the International League. After hitting .334 for the Bisons in 1933, this earned a late-season recall by the Giants, but he failed to impress at the major league level again. However, Casey Stengel and the Brooklyn Dodgers became very interested and signed Koenecke, who popped off. In 123 games, he led the 1934 Dodgers with a .411 OBP, an OPS of .919, and tied for team lead with 14 home runs. He finished second in batting average, hitting .320, and had 31 doubles. Stengel even helped his previously poor fielding issues. Koenecke set the NL record for fielding with a .994 fielding percentage. That's only 2 errors in 318 chances. The New York Times even labeled him with the nickname the new Flatbush Hero. Len Koenecke was on top of the world, but that didn't last long. In 1935, the very next season, the 31-year-old showed up to spring training overweight. An apparent reoccurrence of some foot issues messed with his conditioning. Although he still played decently, hitting .283 with 4 home runs, a .369 OBP, and .741 OPS, he just wasn't the same player he was the year before. And certainly wasn't putting up any numbers that were to be expected by a power-hitting corner outfielder. As the season went on, he was benched more and more. On September 15th, Koenecke failed to produce as a pinch hitter. With the Dodgers 27 games out of first place, Casey Stengel wanted some change. He wanted to see what the future would look like, and he started playing younger players for the end of the season. Stengel cleared some roster space by paying a few players for the remainder of the season and sending them home early the next day. Koenecke was one of them. But he wasn't immediately bothered by this. He even called his wife to tell her he'd be home soon. Surely it started to dawn on him later that he wasn't a part of the Dodgers' future plans. And so the stage is set for one of the strangest series of events and deaths in baseball history. At the airport in St. Louis, Koenecke was scheduled to go to Boston with layovers in Chicago and Detroit. He was reported to be at St. Louis Airport drunk and boarded a plane to Chicago with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. This was odd because he wasn't previously known to be a drinker. However, the flight to Chicago was rather uneventful, but problems arose on the American Airlines flight to Detroit. Koenecke reportedly drank half a quart of whiskey, started arguing with multiple passengers, and when a stewardess attempted to intervene, he knocked her to the ground. He then challenged another passenger to a fight. Both pilots then had to leave their controls and run to the cabin to restore order. One of the pilots then had to sit on Koenecke while he was shackled to his seat for the remainder of the flight. When the plane landed in Detroit, he was escorted off, refunded for his flight to New York, and told to find his own way home. Koenecke fell asleep at the airport and woke up sometime after midnight. He then saw private pilot William Mulqueeny in his terminal and negotiated to fly him home to Buffalo. Mulqueeny flew a Stinson Detroiter, a 6-passenger single-engine plane. Accompanying the two was Mulqueeny's friend and skydiver Irwin Davis, known as the Bat. The beginning of the flight was okay until they reached Canadian airspace. That's when Koenecke started acting up again. At first, he kept nudging Mulqueeny on the shoulder. Annoyed, Mulqueeny ordered Koenecke to the back seat of the plane. He then started a fight with the much smaller Davis in the back of the plane. Davis was easily overpowered by Koenecke. Just a few moments later, Koenecke then attempted to seize control of the plane from the pilot. Mulqueeny, however, was much larger, a former football player for the University of Detroit as a lineman. The two were fighting for control of the plane in the dark Canadian skies, and in an act of desperation to avoid a crash, Mulqueeny grabbed a fire extinguisher and bashed Koenecke in the head several times. Koenecke was then laying on the ground motionless and bleeding. Mulqueeny had no choice but to make an emergency landing in Ontario, where an autopsy found that Koenecke was dead of a brain hemorrhage. Both Mulqueeny and Irwin were charged with manslaughter. However, after the jury only deliberated for a few minutes, they found they were not guilty and were acquitted. Although he had an incredibly short career, Len Koenecke made an impact in that time, and he was still a very decent baseball player. But nevertheless, that short career and the way it ended led to truly the most bizarre actions that led to a death in Major League history. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.